Hello, all my bottoms up babes. This is your soul master, Carrie, taking the messiness in life, mixing it up, finding the message, and serving it to you straight. Because healing isn't linear, it's layered, and sometimes the breakdown is just the beginning of your breakthrough. Here, we honor the ache, speak the life into silence, and give the broken pieces a place to belong. This is the space where truth meets tenderness, where your story is sacred and your scars are seen. So breathe deep, open up, listen up, and let the healing begin. Hello, all my bottoms up babes. This is your soul master, Carrie, here, taking the messiness in life, mixing it up, getting a message, and serving it to you straight. Today, I want to talk about loving yourself more. And before I begin, I want to talk about a word that I feel is kind of underplayed, and that word is abuse. Now, many people seek abuse as physical, and without having visual scars or marks or bumps or whatever you want to say, people don't associate that word abuse with anything other than physical or something of vision. You see, abuse is not just physical. It comes in many forms. It comes in domestic abuse, care support abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, discriminating abuse, self-neglect abuse, and I could go on. But you see, anytime that you are uncomfortable and screaming the words no, yet silenced with someone else's yes, that's abuse. Anytime that you felt danger to saying no and you allowed yourself with your loving heart to make excuses for the yes, chances are you've encountered abuse. If you've hid behind failure but called it a mistake, chances are you've hid behind abuse. They say insanity is when someone does something over and over and over again, but yet when you forgive over and over and over again, that's called love, right? Maybe you've become a professional at keeping secrets, but they're not your secrets. You just own them as if they're your own. When you know what they're doing is wrong, but sacrifice is the only love you've ever known, so you sacrifice yourself and fight with them to try and find what's right. But the truth is, the longer you stay to help them, to save them, it's actually the further away that you become yourself. And the only person that needs help and saving is you. As an adult, we're expected to have answers, especially in this fast-paced world that we live in. We're expected to know exactly what to do when things happen. But you see, as a child, when I first encountered my childhood abuse, as a child, you don't have answers. You're learning. And what I can say from that experience is I learned that love was my savior. As I fought the devil inside of my abuser and with my abuser, I continued to love because my love was true and unconditional. I knew what he was doing was wrong, but I kept my silence because I loved, and I knew the consequences had I spoke up for what was right. But in the end, I needed to love myself more. Now this brings me to my adult abuser. My whole life, I seeked love, the love that I wish I had as a child and into my childhood years, because I knew the love in my heart was what was saving me, and I wanted to always outpour that to others. But you see, when I encountered my adult abuser, it was almost like the ammunition was turned up, because I was no longer a naive child that was helpless. I was now an adult who could make decisions, and now I felt like I was going to be that savior. I almost refer it to like Beauty and the Beast. I knew that he was a beast, but I knew that if I stayed beautiful and true to my love and unconditional love, that was what he needed. He needed love to tame the thorns that came from his body, and that made me fight even harder. But in the end, I needed to love myself more. As a victim of abuse, we don't need to hear your opinions. We don't need information that tells us what we're supposed to be doing, because we already know that. And the reason that we're staying is because we are pouring out the love that we wish we once had. Sacrifice was the only love we knew, so making sacrifices for another is the way that we interpret love. But you see, the way that a victim finally escapes is that they love themselves more. They finally get to a point that they begin to see that it's doing nothing but killing them staying. And it's either they die trying or they die escaping. And it isn't until then that one who encounters abuse will make their escape. We know the opinions. We know that it's silly to others that don't sit in the shoes of people that are being abused, that we aren't leaving. We know it's silly that we cry or want help, but yet we go back. We know that. We know that it's a horrible addiction to the trauma bond and the abuse of the highs and the lows. We know all that. But you see, it isn't until you have a reason, until you seek assurance and love within yourself, that you finally build the courage to leave. So if you're in that situation or you're seeking a reason to leave, love yourself more, because in the end, you're worth it. And you're not the low life loser that they say you are. Believe it or not, they chose you because you are their light and you are the beautiful soul that they need to survive. And it's actually you who is keeping you both alive. So now it's time to love yourself more and live your life and give yourself the life that you deserve, because you're worth it. Much love.